The racism pouring out of these liberals' brains is insane. These people are tweeting things about like, well, how will minorities succeed now? Hard work and
yeah,
what do you mean? I don't know.
Like,
they
always succeeded.
The same way so many other immigrants who have come to this country have succeeded by working really hard and making a better future for their children. It's amazing, isn't it?
Well, it's incredibly infantilizing. I've talked about affirmative action in the past. I've even done an educational video about it. And one thing I want to mention is, well, the obvious, clear injustice with affirmative action, and the thing conservatives should talk about most loudly, is not the soft bigotry of low expectation, but the fact that white students and Asian students are kept from having positions that they have merited because students who didn't merit those positions were given them on the basis of their ethnic makeup. It is also true that these policies are not good for minorities or people in these communities. So what will happen, and this is something Thomas Sowell's talked about, this is something we did a research video on for Freedom Tunes a while back. What happens is a black student will end up being placed in a classroom and in a school setting that is beyond his academic qualifications, and so he'll end up dropping out more often because he isn't in a classroom that actually matches what his standardized testing scores tell us he's going to be capable of achieving academically. So for example, if you have a black kid who could get into a really impressive school, but not necessarily Harvard, and then affirmative action bumps him up and puts him into Harvard, the likelihood that he's going to drop out of Harvard is greater than the likelihood that he would have dropped out of the institution that he was more qualified to attend, and then he's less likely to get a degree. So it's,
but to clarify, while you are correct in the context of this, they're targeting minorities, what you're saying applies to literally any person of any race. If you take any person of any race who scores low on an entrance exam and then put them in a more advanced program, they're likely to drop from that program. And so what these programs were doing was one, basing the entire admission structure on the idea that certain races just inherent, and I mean it when I say inherent. The left always tries to make the argument that when you're talking about race or crime stats, they're like, you think inherently? No. The pretext for affirmative action is inherent because they're saying all people. They're outright saying that if you are Asian, you can't come into this school because you scored this on this test, as if all Asians are the same. So what ends up happening is the Latinos and Black Americans will score at a certain level and probably qualify for some good schools, and they'll say, put them in an Ivy League, where they struggle, drop out, and are worse off for it.
Well, and it's such a strange thing. If your concern is that there's not enough minority representation in academia, then what you have to do is try to structure things so that they're going through the public school system or whatever private school system is available to them in such a way that they end up being qualified to attend these institutions. You don't slap a Band-Aid over it by pushing them into institutions that they're not qualified to attend. I
think the problem that affirmative action is trying to solve is making up for the last 150 years of the black citizenry of the United States being descended from slaves, not having access to parental education. Like their great-great-grandfathers were, slaves and didn't know how to read and write. And then they have kids that if the parent doesn't know how to read and write, education's passed down a lot of times from the adult to the child. So they're trying to solve this, I guess you would call it a class-based issue, because these people were treated as second-class citizens when they were enslaved in 1830. So it's trying to give these people now, like, push them into the level. But I think I agree with what you're saying, that you just can't force people into higher education and expect them to succeed. They need to earn it.
I disagree. I think you're giving too much benefit of the doubt to these people. Since the 50s, when we started seeing the rise of social programs, we've seen what appears to be something beneficial that causes harm. Like Seamus is pointing out, any person who scores low, who is put into an advanced program, will likely struggle with it, and it will cause them harm. I do not believe these people are ignorant of that fact when they have decades of data to show it. I think many of these people are intentionally trying to cause harm because they're overtly racist.
Absolutely. And we saw all throughout 2020 that the left wants a race war. They want to inflame division between the races and the classes. And I think it's pretty sick. And I think that affirmative action is one of the most racist policies that we've ever seen. And DEI and race-based hiring is also in fact, racist. People should be hired and accepted based on merits and not based on ethnicity or color.
Two examples I'll give you, Ian. One, there's a viral video of two white women vandalizing a black neighborhood. and two black women come up to them and say, stop destroying our neighborhood. And the Antifa liberal women go, no, we're doing this for you. The far leftists would go into minority neighborhoods and assist in the destruction. I was there in Ferguson, and I'm asking myself, why are you people destroying this black neighborhood? There was a leftist who wrote an article after Ferguson in defense of looting and made the argument that they were looting these buildings, that black people were looting buildings because it was resistance to the machine that was oppressing them. The reality, the people who lived in the community linked arms to protect their businesses from outside looters. So why are these people in the media lying over and over again about it? Perhaps it's because they're overt racists who know they're not going to be able to pull off these things if they come out and say, hey, their real plan is to hurt people. They need to act like they're doing good. Don't get me wrong, there probably are a lot of dumb default liberals who think they're doing good. But I think the people organizing this know exactly what they're doing.